I'm Dharshini David. I'm a broadcaster, economist and author of The Almighty Dollar. In many ways it might seem like the obvious thing. The euro is used by more people than there are Americans using dollars, so surely that should mean that the euro becomes the dominant currency, right? I mean, after all, both trading blocs are made up of very big spenders indeed, so surely the euro should be in ascendancy. Hasn't quite happened just as yet. What we've seen is the euro, when it was launched as a currency that represented a very disparate range of countries with very different fortunes, and that meant because you had to have one interest rate to represent all those countries, what you saw was their economies doing wildly different things. You had an interest rate that was set to suit the economies largely of the largest countries like Germany and France. So whereas you needed relatively low interest rates because you had problems with German unemployment, that meant there was a property boom in Dublin instead because the Irish economy needed much higher interest rates. So what you had there was a set of economies all pulling in different directions, which damaged initial confidence in the euro, and perhaps things would have settled down. But along then came the financial crisis, and there were concerns after that about some of the members of the Eurozone, in particular, of course, Greece, and whether that could upset the whole project. So that's brought questions over the stability of the euro and also its future as well. So at the moment what you're seeing is the fact that the euro hasn't really become that challenge to the dollar that indeed many thought it would do. In fact, many central bankers, when the euro was launched around the turn of the millennium, did express openly their concerns that this could threaten the dollar's position. Not quite yet. You might see actually the Yuan gets there before the euro. Well, the euro always was going to be an experiment, and it's a bit harsh to judge the fate of the euro, rather whether or not it's been a success on the back of, frankly, a few years' experience. Will the euro last? Well, it's lasted so far, and I think it's been through a pretty major test over the last decade. When you look at what happened with the financial crisis, if you look at what happened with Greece in particular, and the way that Germany and the richer neighbours had to turn around and say, well, what are we going to do about this crisis? I think it's going to last, but we've seen what's happened with Brexit, and that could, of course, cause nerves and restlessness across the continent. We're seeing it already. So I don't think you can take anything for granted when it comes to the euro, but I think for it to fall apart now, or indeed in the near future, would be absolutely catastrophic for the economy's concerns. I think what you'd see were central bankers and politicians doing everything they can to ensure that this experiment does continue for a while, at least.